MPs have warned that public confidence in the Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine has been damaged after some European countries temporarily halted their rollouts.
Yes, so the European Medicines Agency has concluded the vaccine is safe and effective. But is their conclusion enough to calm the fears? Well, joining us now is the Culture Secretary, Oliver Dowden. Good to see you this morning.
Good morning.
We're in a situation, aren't we, where there is no more evidence available to reassure people with. No conclusions could be drawn other than the fact that they believe it is as safe as any science can possibly show us right now. And yet there are still fears. There are still people not turning up for their appointments. What can be done to regain public confidence? And do you think that the European countries' hesitancy has damaged the situation?
Well, thanks. First of all, it's very important what we've heard, not just from the European medicines regulator, but from our own regulator. This vaccine is safe. You can have confidence in it. It's good for you. It stops you getting this terrible disease, and it's good for the whole country because it helps stop the spread of the disease. I think the number one thing that people could do if they have hesitancy is look at reliable news sources. Go to the BBC, to GMTV, see what they're saying about it. Go to gov.uk. If you have concerns, you'll see that those are being addressed. And I think the vast majority of people, as the Chief Medical Officer said yesterday, are still turning up, taking their vaccines, and they should take further confidence from the further analysis that has been undertaken.
As I worked on both GMTV and Good Morning Britain, I feel I should say to the Culture Secretary that we're actually Good Morning Britain. But it's lovely to know that you watched us
it's been one of those mornings. The fire alarm has gone off and everything else. So forgive me for the slip, but I know you're GMB, so apologies.
We've been around a long time. That's fine, and we hopefully always will be. So look, what about supply then? Because that's the next concern, isn't it? You know, the government said, Boris was very bullish, we are confident that our road to freedom is going to go ahead. We have the supplies. However, the problems with these supplies, the government didn't foresee, did they? Because they were promising that under 50s would get their vaccine earlier, or certainly they were giving the expectation of that, maybe not promising dates. So how can we be sure if you didn't know about this hiccup?
Well, we've always said there's 3 milestones along this path. The first was to get it to the most vulnerable people by the middle of February, and that's what we did. The second was to get it to all over 50s and the most clinically vulnerable by the middle of April. We are very much still on course to deliver that, and then finally the rest of the adult population by the end of July. It's always the case with vaccines in terms of production that you will have ups and downs in it, but we factored that into the timeline that we set out, and we are confident that everyone will get invited in those first groups for their vaccine by the middle of April. And you can see the results of that. The deaths are falling, the hospitalizations are falling. We're getting this disease under control, and that's why it's essential when people get the call up to go and get their vaccine.
It is disappointing, though, for anybody under 50 who's now is going to have to wait longer for their vaccination than they might otherwise have done. Can you just clear up for us what is behind this issue with supply? Because the Prime Minister had pointed the fact that there was a delay for various technical reasons, but we know that India's Foreign Minister has told the Parliament there that vaccine export decisions are based on the assessment of adequate availability at home. So is it to do with the Indian government not wanting to release these supplies to us at the moment? What's the hold-up?
Yeah, no, the Indian government hasn't blocked the export of these vaccines. There have been challenges at the Serum Institute, and they've done a fantastic job. The kind of volumes of vaccines that they're producing is amazing. We will get this vaccine. It won't interrupt the overall flow. We were a bit ahead before. We've slowed down a little, but we're still on course for those remaining 2 milestones.
Now, we're looking ahead to the roadmap and when things are going to be opening up. Obviously, people have got all eyes on when events will be back, when theatres will be back open, when sporting events will be back on. In The Sun today, they're talking about Wembley, and they say they're pointing to the fact that you're confident fans can pour in with less or no social distancing, and that will be thanks to COVID certification. So can you just confirm for us how this is going to work? Is it going to be a free-for-all that we'll be able to pack stadiums as soon as the restrictions allow, as long as people have got this COVID vaccination certificate?
And no, it won't be a free-for-all. There are two important stages. So by the 17th of May, all going well with everything else, we'll move on to stage 3. That will allow you to have socially distanced fans in stadiums, so up to a cap of 10,000 people in very big stadiums. Then the next stage is going beyond that from the 21st of June to get even more people in. We are going to pilot how we do that and look at a range of things, including face masks, one-way systems, simple things like how people get around toilets and how people get to their refreshments and so on. And one of the other things that we'll look at, linking into a review being led by Michael Gove, is how we could potentially use COVID certification. So that's to prove whether you've had the vaccine or whether you've had a test to show that you're negative. It's one of a range of things we're piloting, and one of the places we're piloting that at is the FA Cup final.
So you could see a situation then where people have to have this certification to be able to get into events. Would that be the same for things like pubs, restaurants? How would that work on a wider scale?
Well, the first thing we've said is that there's a review into how and if we can deliver the COVID certification. That's being led by Michael Gove, and that will report in the coming weeks. Then, in terms of the pilots that my department are leading on, we're testing a range of different things that could be used to make sure that we can get more people into stadiums, excuse me, and theatres. And one of the things that could link into that is COVID certification as part of it.
When we look at the impact on the theatre industry, for example, and it's been devastating. You know, we've spoken to people about the impact on them, how they haven't been able to access government schemes. So many talented people have been lost from the industry. There are those theatres that won't be able to open up again. And even when they are allowed to open up with restrictions, for a number of them, it's not going to be viable still for many months. It has had a huge impact for them, and they say that you as a government haven't been doing enough to support them, to see them through this.
Well, of course, the COVID restrictions have had a devastating impact on all businesses, and of course on our wonderful theatres that rely on close social interaction. We have given £2 billion to support our theatres and other cultural institutions. That's the biggest investment pretty much anywhere in the world, and countless places from the Royal Albert Hall through to theatres in Liverpool, Birmingham, up and down the country have received millions and millions of pounds, and that has saved the overwhelming majority of our theatres. Now, I know it's still a very difficult time for them. The thing that we can do to get everyone back on the right course is to get people back in theatres. So first of all, socially distance from the 17th of May, but I know for most theatres they can't operate profitably. That's why we want to drive further from the 21st of June and start to ease that social distancing.
I suppose the problem is, though, is that the theatres argue that they did that before. They followed the restriction, did that before, and unlike some other industries, haven't had the support.
And it was very frustrating what happened in December with the opening and closing. We set out a cautious roadmap, so I'm confident that these easements will be more permanent. We have given them the money, £2 billion. In the budget, the Chancellor announced more money, particularly focused on allowing them to reopen, to support them in that reopening process.
But we're looking at the figures of an ITV News survey here. 39% of work has been made redundant at some point, 20% unable to receive any financial support from the government, 49% say payments not enough to cover household bills. It's just had a huge effect, and they're saying that you haven't given it enough priority. Well,
£2 billion is the biggest investment pretty much anywhere in the world. In addition to that, people working in theatres have been able to be furloughed if they're on contracts with those theatres, and many tens of thousands of people have managed to furlough, and many tens of thousands of people have been able to access the self-employed support scheme, and through the Cultural Recovery Fund, we've supported many tens of thousands of jobs. But of course, it's an incredibly challenging time for the creative industries, and particularly our theatres, because they can't operate as normal. And I want them to get them back as soon as we can. But obviously, we've got to do that in a safe way. And as you rightly say, we have to do this in a way that is as permanent as we can be, given the the challenges of this terrible disease. That's why we set out this cautious roadmap.
And one word on Nicola Sturgeon, Mr. Dowden, if I may. Douglas Ross, leader of the Scottish Conservatives, has said she should resign. I'm sure you would support him in his position as member of the same party, but do you think she should?
Yeah, well, of course, I support Douglas's position as leader of our party in Scotland. I think Douglas has made clear, and I would also say we're awaiting the actual formal publication of this committee report.
OK, so would you want her to resign?
Well, we're waiting for the formal publication of the committee report. Douglas Ross, in his statement, has raised significant concerns, but he has also said let's wait for the committee report to be published. But he has rightly raised all the concerns about how she has not given a very accurate account, and I completely support what Douglas Ross has said.